Okay, try and do this in one take. I wanted to make this video because I think there's a lot of uncertainty. I've noticed a lot of uncertainty online about the future of like design and development jobs, etc. I am a senior designer full time. I wanted to make this to kind of talk very briefly about my own path and then also how to be a designer without a degree because it is possible. Here's a collection of some of my work. I do UI UX. I do some marketing. I also do like digital artwork. I've worked for companies like Insomniac, Shaw. I ran my own Web3 company for a brief period of time called Encounter that did pretty well. I do graphic design, things like that. I'm pretty, I guess, well rounded. Um, I started kind of my interest in design because, quite frankly, after high school, I was kind of a loser. I played video games all day, sat in my room. I went to community college for like a computer science degree because I was basically undecided, and my parents wanted me to do something, so I was like, okay, I'll just go do computer science for some reason. Um, at some point, I was like, what am I doing with my life? I asked myself that a few times. Frankly, I knew I was good at like a few things. Like I was editing Call of Duty montages. I was like making YouTube videos. I was like creating content. I knew I was good at that. I also was interested in like some creative things like drawing music, thinking differently. I guess I've always been able to kind of like see between the lines and go against the grain a little bit. I did, kind of finally decide I want to be a designer, but like my accolades didn't really match up with like tuition cost, and I didn't have money, so I was like, okay, well, like, what am I supposed to do? Um, I thought, well, I could just teach myself design. Like, how hard could it be? I I really like started thinking to myself like if I'm a designer, if I've got like a really good portfolio but no degree, and then you've got like another designer with a degree but his portfolio isn't that great, like who is really going to be more hireable? And the one thing to realize is like the world before and after you get like your design degree is the same. And I just wanted to include this slide because I think that a lot of people overthink like the importance of the degree when it comes to like a creative field like design. So nobody really cares is what I've found. This is what kind of people care about. Like the reason businesses hire designers is because usually their stuff sucks, like their website, the social media, branding, systems, etc. That's really what they care about. Um, I feel like I need to mention that when you start talking about degrees, people get a little not defensive but confused. Learning design is not the same as like a STEM degree. Getting good at design is more like learning a language. So, like if I show you this quote here, you can't read it. Um, but if I increase the letter spacing, you now can. This is just a design choice, and there's obviously good and bad ones. And that's because design is, in my opinion, a unique like combination of creativity and functionality. And everybody has the ability to be creative and understand the function of something, right? The skill lies in merging those two in the middle to like solve a problem. Now, the best designers out there are ultimately problem solvers. I solved the problem myself, not getting a degree, by ensuring that like whatever it takes, I would be the best designer for the job. That's always been my mentality. I've watched probably more tutorials than anyone on the planet. I've shared a lot of work like online to get feedback and critiques. I used to work through the night, like even when I had a part-time job, I would be up to like 4 or 5 a.m. trying to like get good at improve my design skills. Developing like communication skills is really important, especially if you're planning on working with clients or you're going to be reporting. You want to like have a kind of a more like corporate job. You'll be reporting to managers and directors. You really do have to learn communication skills, and you also, you need that that entrepreneur mindset, which everyone is familiar with nowadays. All of this was kind of solidified for me because in 2018, I got my first like internship with a company called Mohawk, and the guy didn't even look at my resume. I was so worried about him seeing that I don't have a degree, and this was just a graphic design internship. He didn't even look at my resume. He just wanted to see my portfolio, and it was like relatively basic at the time. It was printed like maybe like 4 to 6 pages of some like fake projects I'd done, but it was enough. I've tried to, for a while, kind of lay out visually the process that I took and like what I refer to as like the staircase. So A being point A is like me having zero experience, like sitting in my room, and then like point Z is me where I'm at now, where I'm making like I make 6 figures in total with my full time creative director role and freelancing and contracting. This is kind of what I think you should do if you want to get to that point, and I'll break it down. So the first step is like learning everything. As soon as you understand that like design can be learned on your own and you want to do something with it, you're now a designer because you're now trying to solve a problem. So I think you just need to get going, and you're going to spend a lot of time in what I refer to as like the training arc, where you're really just having to learn the fundamentals, apply them in your own way, and practice and see what other people are doing, and observe and learn new things. About like 2 to 6 months in, I think that you should create a portfolio. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be online, it could be printed, it could be a bunch of like PDF files, it could be a Figma file. And this really never stops. The best portfolios out there are the ones that are like constantly evolving. You want to be always showcasing your best work, or what you think is the best work to show for a role you're going after, right? So if your goal is like, I want to be a concept artist, and your portfolio is full of like social media designs, it's not really going to help you too much. So with an internship, it's like kind of getting your foot in the door, right? You've got no degree. Internships are they look good on a resume for actually trying to like get that full-time like professional job. Internships are generally a little looser in terms of like requirements. They usually don't care if you have a degree or not. Like I mentioned earlier, my portfolio really got me in the door. It was just good enough to where they were like, yeah, this guy can design stuff. Let's give him an internship. I would look for something like this as soon as possible, but really until you're comfortable with simple design skills, and in my opinion, it'll be probably about like 3 to 6 months in. And then you want to be continuing to learn. It's a lot easier to get a job if you already have one. Some people know this, some people don't. Really what it boils down to is like social proof. So once you have that internship and you're still learning and practicing, and you're building your portfolio from things like maybe created in the internship, it's a lot easier to get like that first official professional full-time or part-time job. And again, it's all about the resume building. So add that new experience in there. And then, as you progress, you'll be able to get like that full-time salary job as a designer. And then, at the upper end of the staircase is like possibilities. At some point, you can start refining your skills and then decide like, oh, I want to run my own agency, or I want to go just purely freelance. I think that all these are steps that are kind of required regardless of what you want to do at kind of the end, what your end goal is. Fun fact about design schools, like with AI and stuff, they aren't really design schools are preparing students for jobs that won't exist by the time they graduate. I think this sentence kind of hits pretty hard if you think about it. We're in the middle of like, the AI craze, regardless of what your opinion is. I think it is going to dissolve a lot of jobs. And I think just quite frankly, design schools right now really don't have like a vested interest in making sure that you have job security when you graduate. They're really just teaching you the same things that are available online that you could learn yourself. I like being a self-taught designer because I was kind of like I'm in control of my own success, not somebody else's, and I enjoyed that. And it also like kind of gave me the ability to learn more well-rounded skills, like on top of the design and UI UX stuff. I was able to like learn more about finance and sales and copywriting, marketing, etc. Stuff that like my parents didn't really teach me, and I don't think design school would have taught me either. I feel like it better prepared me for like the real world, just learning on my own. There are some pros and cons. The benefit is like you really can get ahead of your peers. I feel like the people I graduated high school with, some of them went to design school. When they got out 4 years later, I was kind of already ahead of them, like 2 years in. So they got out, and I already had a job, and they were like asking me how to get a design job. And it seemed like to me it didn't really make sense at that point. I'm like, well, why are you even going to school? I taught myself this stuff in 2 years, and I've already, I'm kind of already in the industry, and now you graduated, you've got all this tuition to pay off, and you can't find a job. Like, I'm not good at math, but to me, that equation just like didn't add up. So I think like it gives you options as well. Um, Learning how to learn is really important. A lot of people think they're not capable of like learning on their own, um, but you would really be surprised. And I've got a slide on that a little bit later. Uh, Another, the pro again is just like cut to the chase. Like you can kind of skip all the fluff and time getting that school brings, and you can really just spend hours and hours really drilling down on like the important bits that you need to learn. There are some cons. Like obviously, it's going to make you uncertain. Skipping a degree, there's never any certainties that someone is going to want to hire you. I will say that absolutely there are companies out there that care that you don't have a degree. They won't bring you on. They won't work with you. But there's also a lot of companies and a lot of people that will that don't care. So if you can get over the uncertainty and like the imposter syndrome of like I didn't go to school, like I can't do this, then I think the pros outweigh the cons. Again with the con, I realize I'm on the internet talking to a wide range of people, so it does like require you to have, you're going to need a computer, internet access, and then obviously some kind of like financial cushion. You need to be able to pay your bills and rent. So if that means having to work like some retail job or basic like 9 to 5 unrelated to design, then that's just what you got to do. So here's like how to do it, right? It's like, how do I be a self-taught designer? Like, how do I learn design? Well, really just learn the fundamentals, shape and form and color and typography. Like these things are all infinitely available online. Practice, watch tutorials, practice. Do mock projects. You can do stuff with family and friends. There's a couple websites that will give you like practice design projects. They'll just generate them at random. I'll put a link to those in the description. You can use those. In reality, the only way you're going to know if you're improving as a designer is if you are putting your stuff out there in front of other people and then you're getting good or bad feedback back, right? Because I can design in a bubble all day long, and even though I think something might look cool, it's not really going to might not look cool to somebody else. Or just because I think a website is good doesn't necessarily bring in the context of like working with a client, right? What I think is good, or whatever problem I think I'm solving is not really applicable to like a real world scenario. So you always want to make sure that you're sharing your stuff and practicing and getting feedback and critiques. I do wonder why when I say it's a general you. The internet like is great for watching like Subway Surfer compilations, like 12-hour uploads, but like in reality, this is the stuff that you can use and find on the internet that is really going to deliver like long-term value to your life. So I would just kind of think for a second, like which facet of the internet you think will be more beneficial in your journey of like teaching yourself a new skill. I think it's obvious, and I would highly encourage you to just think of the internet more like a tool, reconnect a little bit, and understand that there's like like I said, there's an infinite amount of like guides and resources and things out there that you can absorb and learn. So just take advantage of it. And with YouTube, like I said, tutorials, in my opinion, are the best way to learn as a new designer. I've watched thousands of YouTube videos, and what's great about tutorials is it's pretty linear in the sense where like you learn how to do X and Y, and they show you all the steps in between, and then you're done. And you usually wind up with like something that looks quite similar to them. And so what you've done is you've learned like one specific workflow. But what's also good about tutorials is you might do X and Y, and then you think Z looks better, so you do that instead. And so what you've done essentially is you've maybe it's like you thought the color of a font looked better, or you didn't like the transition they used. You've created like a branch of learning for yourself, and when you do those branches and you make your own like unique design decisions, you wind up just creating like new novel ideas for yourself. Like, oh, maybe I can do it this way, or maybe I can do it this way and make this product, or I can try this new idea, or I don't actually know how this tool works. I've never used it before. Let me try it for this thing and that thing. And so you create just like new understandings for yourself. And ultimately, this is like what learning is all about. For instance, like if I said, design me a 3D recording studio with realistic dimensions, lighting, assets, and materials within 24 hours using only Blender. Most of you, if you haven't done 3D before, you're gonna be like, I don't know how to do that, right? And then we'll never talk again. But if I tell you the same thing, but promise that I'll pay you $100,000, you're gonna be like this, like immediately. You're gonna be looking up things, how to do things, Blender tutorials, right? Our willingness to learn is like perceived value outcome. So if I tell you, to learn a new skill with no perceived value, you're gonna be like, yeah, right, like take a hike. But if I, suddenly offer money, it's like, oh my God, I'm gonna go learn this today, right? So a couple of like trues and falses. Design school can absolutely be beneficial. That's true. What's false is that it's required. What's also false is like you're not capable of learning on your own. I don't think this is, any particular person or like thing out there is at fault for this kind of belief, but like everybody's capable of learning stuff on their own, and even something as like complex and abstract as design is, you can do it. I learned it by myself. You can too. Now here's another thing that's false. Like when I graduate, I'm gonna get a great job. Like people go into school thinking this. I really want to stress the fact that like it is not the school's responsibility, and they have really no interest in making sure that you have a job when you graduate. They are going to prepare you enough to where you understand the skills. But any element outside of that, outside of like those design skills and the art history and the fundamentals, they have no obligation to teach you or prepare you for those things, right? And now I understand that design education is a big spectrum. Some of you might have a degree in design and you did learn some of the things, great. But I think it's hard to argue the fact that like thinking just because you go to school and get a degree that you're going to land in a great job is just not the case. Here's an example of just like, kind of like that perceived value outcome. Like 2018, I was like a beginner and I was trying to make cool vector art. So you can see on the left, like just some basic like guy with a gas mask. It looks terrible in my opinion. Today, like I've transitioned into like doing digital painting. So I have that piece on the right there that I did pretty recently. Seeing a skill improvement from like left to right, for me is like really gratifying, and I think again is just an example of this can be learned. Yes, this is illustration, but illustration obviously has design elements too, right? Like I said, I'm probably a designer that's more like well-rounded, and like we like to talk about new skills we want to learn, like how we want to move up in a company, or how like tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow comes and then we remain the same. When I look at my old designs and artworks from years back, it would be like ingenuine of me to attribute my improvements to anything other than simply designing and like doing it a lot, repetitions, right? So start creating, start designing, and like start yesterday. Like start as soon as this video ends. Start now. That is your best bet. Um, get ideas for things, try those ideas, learn, and then repeat. That's all there is to it. I have a free like kind of design guide. It's broken up into like 8 sections. I borrowed some stuff from this guide in this video. I'll put a link to it in the description. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. I'm not trying to like sell a course. I basically give away a lot of like free design stuff just because I'm trying to build an audience. That's about it. There's no like charge or anything, or I'm not gonna try and like sell you something. It's just what I did to kind of get to the point where I am now. And if you want to check that out, then it'll be in the description. So hopefully this helped. And leave me a comment, your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one.